Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Today we're going to be talking about specters and why you should use them. Gonna start with the new player approach, where to get them, what you should do to get them, um, and into some more, slightly more advanced. I'm not going to go too in depth because I'm pretty sure the challenge is just going to be convincing people to use them. But drop some of the specters I have on my gear wheel behind me. There's a reason why I have these guys specifically, and I'll go over that briefly. But for people that don't use specters, this is what they look like. Everybody's familiar with Clem. You do a weekly mission for him. The first one I wanted to cover is actually this Volt Specter here. This is the Vapor Specter. It's the tier 1. You get these from spy missions, or not spy missions, rescue missions. Um, the tier of Spectre you get is based on a point system. No, it's not explained anywhere, but it is on the wiki. But inside the game, it doesn't explain this point system. You get a point for rescuing the target. You get a point for killing the wardens. And you get a point for not triggering the execution sequence. So the only way to guarantee the best Spectre to get, as there are 4 stars for Spectres, the best one is the cheapest one. 1, it gives you the most. 2, they're cheaper. 3, these guys scale with enemy level. So the level buff that you would potentially get from using a 4-star is kind of negligible unless it's like super early in the star chart. So I use exclusively the cheap ones. I've got hundreds of them. And yes, that means because the only way to guarantee to get a 2-star when running Publix is to go to the lowest level rescue mission and make sure to trigger the alarm. Because if you do the mission without triggering alarms, that takes one, or that gives you a point, and somebody could always accidentally kill one of the wardens. So if you trigger the alarm on the lowest level rescue, kill all the wardens, and rescue the target, you get the cheap Spectre. And they're quick missions. For the newer people, you'll get better at them. Everybody sucked at everything to begin with. Some people sucked a little less, but everything's a skill. The best Spectre, in my opinion, is probably the easiest one to get, is the Volt Spectre. It's available in your clan dojo. You got to build them for MR anyway. You do not have to use the Prime, though I am. Most of the scaling on these guys comes from their actual levels. As you can see, their levels are slightly above 1. And because this isn't an Eximus, this is 1. Except for Clem, he's special. But Spectres are super useful. Not only for damage, but because of the fact that they scale all the way up to level cap. So getting in the habit of using these, pretty simple to use one. Here, we'll drop one. Right here, don't move. Press X as soon as it pops up. And now it's in defensive mode. As an enemy shows up, see how I had one over there? It dies. This one takes its place. If you're doing a defensive mission, talking to all my Koba enjoyers on Earth, in one of the entrance paths toward the defense target, find a tunnel or like an archway. Look down at the ground. Drop this guy right here, and he will defend that pathway for you. So you can focus on the other ones. The only consideration that you need is you have to move around at least once a minute to prevent the AFK timer. And I'll stand here for a second, because this guy will sit down and stop doing anything. But other than that, he has infinite ammo. I'm picking his primary, secondary, and melee. You want the hardest hitting, and you can see he casted his ability to speed up. You want the hardest hitting primary you have. And I'm using right now a 60% Heat Brahma, because it has the highest alpha damage in an AoE that I have. Obviously, there is room for, say, like the Tsar, but he doesn't switch modes. So food for thought. Machine guns work really well. Snipers, unironically, work very well. They are able to take care of, the Specter is able to take advantage of the multiplier. So don't pick the headshot multiplier one. If the weapon has like a crit damage multiplier, and see, he sits down, has a crit damage multiplier on combo, use that. The Vectis is a go-to sniper if you want to use it. They are affected by wisp buffs, and it is one of the most effective ways to use them. Like when I do my hyper farms, I use these guys just to make it so much easier. But going over the usefulness of these guys, Clem is super tanky. He's got his favorite weapons. Eventually, Clem scales to insane levels. This guy provides AoE damage reduction and a heal. It's a pulse. Not super helpful for you, but helpful for the other Specters. This is a better one. It shoots rockets. They're radiation based. I would watch out for this one if you use this, because radiation procs can slow down your farming. Shield drones. These come from the shield drone Eximuses that drop from the syndicates trying to kill you. You can also get them if you have the correct syndicate. Little Arson Eximus. This guy has a big AoE heat ball that he does. The Arctic Eximus has almost like a frost globe. It's an Arctic Eximus, so it has the globe, and it does an AoE frost globe, or a frost nova, like the Arson Eximus. And this guy used to be kind of a joke, but it's probably the most utility oriented out of the group. If you know about the Eximuses that spawn or cast the energy drain, this guy does that also. And he gives you energy. So he's going to be casting it constantly. And you're going to be getting, like, I would say 4 energy a second just being around him. And he has the little AoE. But for beginners, the first one that you're probably going to run into is going to be the level 1 star. That's all right. Don't worry about getting the 4 stars. I still use the 1 stars, and that means even me, I'm doing low level rescue missions and Clem clones, and that will take you a pretty far distance. And as you passively have syndicates try to kill you when you get to that, it's part of the quest line. When syndicates start actually dropping in the hit squads, you'll passively get, drops for these. and you'll either be able to make them or you'll pick them up flat out. Just make sure to equip these, because there are times where, say, maybe you're leveling a build and you really want to get to 20 minutes into a survival, or you want to get to a rotation C reward on a defense. These guys can definitely make or break being able to do that when you're new to Warframe, especially with host migration. If you're trying to get to a reward tier or get to a time interval, host migrated, use these guys as an oh crap button, if you will. Drop a couple of them, Volt Specter in the front, put the other ones behind, and they'll just fire. And when you get a little later in the game, it becomes hyper useful using a Wisp with these guys, because they benefit from the Wisp motes. When you're running a survival with these, do not use the blue mote. It will slow down your kill rate. So use greens and reds. And I use the Brahma. I know some people that use the Vectus because of its additional scaling. But the only other thing I could really talk about with these guys in terms of maybe more advanced mechanics is if you're ever running a Specter farm, the auras change with what you want to use. It's an extremely lazy way of farming, but the aura usage that you want to use becomes less about utility for you and more about utility for the Specters. Like, say, for example, you're running by yourself. You would keep, like, a corrosive aura when going up against the Grineer. But, say, two people, you're doing it with, like a clanmate or something. You actually don't want to run double corrosive against Grineer. You would run Rifle Amp, because the boost and how the scaling is done with Specters is, it's like enemy scaling. There's a base damage, and it gets multiplied by a formula, and that's the new damage, but the base stats of the weapon apply. So if you do a Rifle Amp, all of a sudden you're getting that, where for a Warframe, for you and me, would be not much of a boost, I guess, unless you're Mesa. All of a sudden you're getting 100 pennies on the dollar for a Specter. Now, I wasn't able to, like, accurately test this, but I do know that the Rifle Amp does increase the damage. When I was noticing Wisp Breach Surge sparks, we noticed that there was a much bigger damage, where when we were running a longer run and we were doing a Specter camp to just have an easier time at it, that the Specters were hitting for the additional damage. Obviously, if you're running a Vectus Volt, use the appropriate one. The Volt will have a considerably better time, especially with that bonus. But food for thought, when you start running with, like, groups of people, you want to do, like, against Grineer, Corrosive Aura, do a Rifle Amp. When you're doing Corpus, do a Shield Disruption. You use that and you leveled it up, right? And a Rifle Amp against Corrupted. You could then consider taking Rifle Amp, Corrosive, Shield Disruption. So those really odd auras that you really don't use, when using them with these guys, are incredibly useful. When we would do like a level cap farm, if you will, um, which takes about 8 hours. But if we're trying to passively farm relics, and it's more about hanging out with people than actually like trying to get to level cap, we would run a wisp and necros like for the frames with a corrosive projection and a rifle amp, and we would use the conditionals from the relic bonus to further boost the most moat amps, and they apply to these guys. So that's a little bit more advanced. A Wisp Necros Specter camp is probably the easiest level cap run you'll ever do. But it's more advanced. But yeah, for the new guys, build yourself Volt Specters. Even worse weapons will do way better with them. He's got lots of bonuses, and plus his shields are particularly potent because it get the 100% crit chance and the electricity bonus, the electricity damage bonus applies even to you. So if you're still trying to get over the hump and get more damage, it's completely okay to line up behind his shield also and enjoy the damage bonus also. But I'll do a way more in-depth video explaining how to abuse these guys, but I would encourage everybody to use these. They're super useful and they make level caps way easier. I've even used them on the Zaramid flood missions. So, food for thought. Thank you.